Good morning. My name is Al Howell. I am the Deputy Commissioner with the Human Resource Administration with the Georgia Department of Administrative Services. And it's my pleasure to welcome you today to our first HR community meeting for 2026. I'd like to welcome everyone today. We have a very full agenda. We also will have, not only will we have the community meeting, but we'll also have the continuing HRD implementation meeting related to the implementation of Georgia at Work. But before we get started with the community meeting, I'd like to take care of a little bit of housekeeping here. First of all, when you entered the meeting, you were automatically muted, and also your camera was disabled. Also, for when you have any questions, please utilize chat for your questions.
You sleepy?
And make sure that your microphone is muted and as you listen. But also, if you have any other applications open, like MS Outlook or other internet sites, please turn those off. That will help you with your access to the Teams connectivity. And also want everyone to know that today's meeting is being recorded, and we will share a copy of that with everyone a couple of days after today's meeting. So that kind of takes care of some of the housekeeping matters. Now let's take a look at today's agenda. Next slide, please. First of all, we're going to start off with a poll everywhere. We have Latasha West, who is our Senior Policy Manager, that will go through the poll everywhere, where we like to poll this group to find out, what are you interested in? So we will use feedback from today's meeting to help us to plan programming for the remaining part of the 2026 year. So we'll do that first. Then we have Danny Eldridge, who is the Director of Training and Workforce Development with the Georgia Cyber and Innovation Training Center. And Danny's going to share with us an interesting tool that has been put together or developed by Georgia Cyber Training Center that will help you to recruit and develop cybersecurity staff. And so a very interesting tool that you can use both in recruiting, but also in developing your IT staff. So Danny will share us a demo of that. Then beginning around 10:55, we will start the next gen update as we have the HRD implementation portion of the program. And then afterwards, I have some wrap up comments, a very special announcement that we like to make at the end of the meeting. So that is today's agenda. So next slide, please. So now I will turn it over to Latasha West, who is our Senior Manager of our policy unit, and she will take us very quickly through the poll everywhere exercise. Latasha?
All right. Thank you, Al. Good morning, everyone. Okay, so for those of you who've joined our community meetings before, you're familiar with Poll Everywhere, but I'll still go through instructions for joining real quick for any who have joined the meeting who aren't familiar. There are 3 ways to join the polling session that I've set up for us in Polling Everywhere. You can use text, you can scan the QR code, or you can use your web browser. When using text, you will enter the number 22333, and in that text, the message box, you'll enter the HRA 160 to join today's poll. Or if you want to just scan the QR code and join that way, that'll work. Or you can pull your web browser, enter pollev.com/HRA160 to join that way. Once you join, you'll be told that the polling session isn't yet active. I'll activate that after I go through this next slide. But first, I want to make sure that everyone's had a chance to successfully join. So if I could get some thumbs up, let me know if you successfully joined the polling session. All right, great. I see those thumbs. Thank you very much. All right, next slide. Okay, so before I get into the questions, and they're just 2, as Al said, we'll be asking you about any topics or speakers that you want to hear about this year, just so that we're mindful and we deliver information that interests you and is of use to you. But before we do that, I wanted to take a quick look at the meeting topics that we had last year. A good number of meeting topics. Many were based on the feedback that we received from you. I know last year when we did did the polling session, some of those topics that showed repeatedly, letting us know there was a great interest in those topics was artificial intelligence. I remember ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act being another, continued updates regarding NextGen was another. So, and you see those among a list of other things and the topics that we covered last year. So this next slide just shows that I'll get into Poll Everywhere. At this point, I'll need to share my screen, and I think I can do that. All right. Can everybody see my screen?
Yep, we can.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so I will first activate this question. All right. And so the question is, we want to ensure that our media topics are of interest to you, as I touched on. So tell us about any topics you'd like to hear about. I'd set the timer at 2.5 minutes. The next question will be at 2.5 minutes as well. And for any who you're just brimming with ideas, you have some that you're sending to us, and you have others that you want to submit, know that I will include my email address in the chat for you to send me an email if needing to reach out to me, just to give me any other thoughts that you have. So I know responses are coming through. And once we get to the end of the timer, I'll go over some of what these responses are. All right, I see the responses coming in. We have a little less than a minute left. Keep them coming. Okay, now let's just take a quick look at some of the responses we've received. And until I switch to the next question, if any are still submitting responses, they'll still come through. It's only when I go to the next question that you'll no longer be able to respond to the poll. But as I said, for any of you with a lot of ideas, a lot of topics that are of interest, if you're not able to get them through to me in this polling session, I'll put my email in chat once I'm done. All right, so I saw a lot of responses regarding professional development, Georgia at Work. I saw artificial intelligence mentioned several times, trainings for HRDs, again, professional development, career development. I saw panels mentioned as well. I assume this Yvette Daniels is regarding a speaker that an audience member would like to hear speak during one of the meetings. You'll have a chance to enter that name in the next question. Next Gen, HR Leader Training, Ending Remote Work, FML ADA, Georgia as a Model Employer or GAME, and other topics that you see here. So thanks everyone for responding to that question. The next one is, get it to go. All right, so about the speakers. So in addition to typical speakers within DOAS, SAO, let us know of any other speakers that you'd be interested in hearing from. Beyond sharing the names, if you do have the contact info, do include that as well. I have activated that question. We have 2.5 minutes. So go ahead and submit your responses. You have 2.5 minutes. All right, we have a little less than a minute left. Keep your responses coming. All right, that's it for our time. I see a lot of different names and groups listed. ERS is one that I've seen listed quite a bit. I've seen employment attorneys, specific names, the Georgia Department of Labor's commissioner, the governor. So a lot of speakers and groups listed. So thank you everyone for your responses to that. At this point, that covers the 2 questions I intended to ask everyone. I will stop sharing at this point. Again, thank you everyone for your responses. It'll definitely be helpful to us as we plan for the upcoming meetings. And again, if there are other topics, speakers that come to mind for you that you weren't able to submit to the poll, you'll have my email address that I'm about to enter right now. So that's it for me. I'll give it back to you, Al.
Okay, thanks, Latasha. And I'd like to thank the group for the feedback that you provided us. We do take this data, this information, and we will use it to plan future meetings for 2026. So we do listen, and we do want to make sure that our programming is built around what you want to hear as an HR professional. So again, thank you for your input. Always very helpful. So now we'd like to kind of shift gears and would like to hear from Danny Etheridge, who is the director of the Georgia Cypress Center in Augusta. He is their training director and also the workforce development director. And Danny's going to share with us today a very interesting tool that was developed by the Cyber Center that, as I mentioned earlier, can help you with recruiting cyber talent, but also developing that talent. And we have seen a demo of it, and we're very impressed with it. And we'd like for him to share this with this group because there's a need to do a pilot program that he'd like to talk to you about also. So I know we're stretched for time. So Danny, I will turn it over to you, and please share with us the Cyber Pathfinder.
Absolutely. Good morning, Al. Can you all hear me? I want to make sure.
Loud and clear.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Al, for giving me this opportunity. We're really excited to kind of discuss some of what we do here at the Georgia Cyber Center and how we think this tool can really help the hiring here in the state of Georgia. So with that, do I press next slide, or is someone going to do that? Or do I share? I can share my slides on my end too.
See, Lenore, she can advance the slides for you.
All right. So like Al said, my name is Danny Etheridge. I'm the Director of Training and Workforce Development here at the Georgia Cyber Innovation and Training Center, or as we like to say, the Georgia Cyber Center, because that's a mouthful. I've been here for about a year, just over a year now. And before I got hired on here, I was one of the people that I'm going to be talking about, one of those job seekers that is trying to figure out how to get into their next role, right? Because there's some difficulty with that. We want to make sure that we bridge that gap. With that, next slide. So what do we do? For those of you who have not heard of the Georgia Cyber Innovation and Training Center, it is Georgia's cyber and IT ecosystem, right? So we have an ecosystem of government with state, local, federal government. Here we have Georgia Bureau of Investigation within our building. Higher education, we are actually operated by Augusta University, which means we have not just ties to Augusta University, but the entire university system of Georgia, the entire technical college system of Georgia. So we're really trying to be that ecosystem of all of that. The military is close by. Matter of fact, they have a whole floor in our building too. And that's where we're not too far from Army Cyber Command, which is just a few miles down the road from us. So we have partnerships there. So really higher education, private industry we have in this building. Again, it's supposed to be an ecosystem, but the goal specifically is to be Georgia's cyber and IT ecosystem, right? So we want to be that support to the state of Georgia and to the region as a whole. And one of those things that is our focus is on the workforce development for cyber. Please, next slide. So this is the landscape. Across the United States, we have about 514,000 job vacancies at last count. That was updated just last week. So 514,000 job vacancies, and that is specific to cyber positions. So that doesn't include your traditional IT position. That is just cyber. And what that means, and as you can also see, we have that number for Georgia too, right? So just over 17,000 vacancies just here in Georgia. And that's across the landscape. So it's not just government, it's not just private, it's across the landscape. So what that means is there is a lot of soft underbelly when it comes to defending our nation and our institutions against the various cyber threats, whether they're foreign adversaries, whether they're criminal syndicates, or whether they're just teenagers in their basement trying to see what they can get away with. So we need to be able to protect against all of those different threats. But that first line of protection is the individuals that the HR here is tasked with hiring. One of the ground rules I like to say, this is a little difficult without being able to see the audience's reaction and everything. We're used to doing this and being a little bit more interactive with it. So please, if you have a reaction, please, liberal use of the react button will help me ensure that we're staying engaged. I'm not boring you to death. This is important, and we want to make sure that it's meeting your need too. So clap if you want, thumbs up, all of those kind of things. So appreciate that. And then thank you. Oh, we have a hand raised. She can jump in if she needs to. Um, the so as we continue, again, I want to be clear that you and HR have a very difficult job, especially in today's landscape. You're trying to do all the hiring across all of the industries, not just cyber, uh, and you're expected to create all of these perfect job descriptions and make them match all of the different processes that you have in place. And you have to do all of that, sifting through 1,000 candidates to find that one person, right? We want to help make it a little easier for you. Um, it's impossible for you to be experts at everything. It's impossible for any of us to be experts at anything. So if there's a little bit that we can help with specific to cyber, that is what we're meant to be. We are a nonprofit here. Again, we're attached to the university. Uh, the goal is to be that resource for Georgia, and we really want you to take advantage of us as a resource to help out with some of these things. So, I think with that, next slide, please. So this is what we're trying to get after is how does the individual, and I'm talking about myself again, right? So I was just in that position a little over a year ago. How does that individual translate their expertise, their training, their experience to the specific job that you are trying to fill for? Many of the different, I'll say it this way, a career is not any one way, right? It's going to meander across probably several different domains of a particular industry. Um, there's going to be different training that you need for different jobs, and you're still trying to build that career. And when you're looking for that role, and when you as HR, you're looking for the person to fill that role, you're trying to figure out what is that common language? How do we translate the experience and the training for that one individual to what we need? Because ultimately you have requirements in your organization that you need to fill. That's the whole point of your vacancy. You need someone who can come in and do the thing that you've identified, right? Well, for cyber, what is fantastic is that this framework, this foundation is already built. The National Initiative for Cybersecurity Education, the NICE framework, it is a framework that's actually built out all of the work roles underneath cybersecurity industry. Um, it is, again, it's national. This particular initiative is run by the National Institute for Science and Technology, which is an organization under the Department of Commerce, right? So these, again, are federal standards. We just have to learn how to use them and how to um, weigh what we need versus this framework. And so as you can see on that graphic to the right, it starts at the category level. So there's 5 different categories. They're broken down into 11 different competency areas, and competency areas are just uh, they're clusters of the different knowledge items, skills, and tasks that you'll see at the bottom. And then it's broken down into 41 different work roles. So they've done the work and assigned 41 different work roles um, across the landscape of cybersecurity. And some of them are highly technical, some are more program management, some are leadership, some are education, right? It spans the entire swath. And then again, under that, those are the specific competency areas that fall underneath those work roles. And then at the very bottom, you get into the tasks, skills, and knowledge items needed for each of those different work roles. There are 2,111, we call them just KSTs, and what we have done at the Georgia Cyber Center, the only part that we've done, the added step that we've taken on top of the NICE framework, is that we've gone through line by line of all 2,000 plus of those KSTs. And based on what they're asking for, we've kind of done that research with our network, our ecosystem, if you will, of everyone that's in the building and the partners that we have, and said, is this particular line item entry level, mid level, senior, or expert? And we've done that with all 2,000. So now you can take a particular work role and an individual can map their entire career based on what they need, right? Or what their interests are, what they're looking to get at, what their goals are. So they can look at the entry level skills and say, okay, I need to learn this starting off, moving to middle range, and then moving up as they go. Uh, any questions on the knife spring? I don't want to spend a ton of time on it, but I did want to briefly explain that to you. We can move to the next slide. So this is the problem. All right. So you have an individual who is a security analyst. They believe they want to be a security analyst, and they've had that job title maybe once or twice in their career, and now they're trying to find that role. Well, company A, they have a paper analyst, right? And that paper is reviewing spreadsheets, documentation, ensuring that the compliance controls are being met of their system. And that particular work role, those responsibilities align to the security control assessment work role. But on company B, they have a security analyst role too, and it's much more technical. So that individual is monitoring firewall traffic. They're hunting different threats. They're doing automation. So that aligns more to the defensive cybersecurity work world. So what we've done is we've basically used those KSTs and broken all of that down into the different work roles. Now we have a better understanding of what it is we're looking for in the person that we're trying to hire, right? And now you can go back to your to that hiring manager who first asked for that vacancy to be filled and say, hey, what specifically are they going to be doing so that we can try to match the right person to the right skills that you're looking for. And then on the flip side, don't have a slide to represent this, but also on the flip side, you have the individual who has done the paper analyst thing for all of their career, but it's been called something else at each different stop, right? So they were a compliance analyst, and then they were a governance analyst, and then they were a controls analyst, but it's all the same thing. So when they're applying to the security analyst role at company B, they may not be the most qualified, right? So we again, we're aligning, we're trying to get everyone to speak the same language. The communication between the job seeker and the hiring manager is what we've seen a lot of issues with. And I'll tell you just from personal experience, when I first started looking for my roles, when I was laid off, I guess it was 2 years ago now. You start to get on different job boards and everyone's complaining about the same thing, right? There's people saying that we've got uh, I've just went through 4 or 5 rounds of interviews, only to be told that I was the number 2 candidate and they were looking for number 1. The hiring manager, you're trying to find that one person while sifting through 1,000 AI generated resumes. The whole system is difficult just because of the lexicon, just because of the discussions and the language that we aren't matching on, we aren't aligning on. So if we can, this is not going to fix the entire issue, of course, but if we can at least get everyone speaking the same language about what the job roles and the requirements are, that can certainly make a dent in some of that hiring. Because again, the goal is to fill those vacancies, right? Next slide. All right, so this is our answer to it. We call it Cyber Pathfinder, and basically we're talking about a language translation engine, and we'll talk about kind of what the features are and what it can do specifically within your organizations. If I don't bring it up, Al and his team they made a great suggestion about a use case for it that was not in our goal list when we started developing this, but I think it is something for you to think about at least. So what does it do? Active Translation Engine. I see a question in there says language translation as in crosswalk. I'm not exactly sure what the context of that question is. So if you can maybe explain a little bit more in there. But when we say language translation, we're saying translating the individual translating the requirements that the organization has to the individual and how they are not just tailoring their resume. We want to make sure that they can do the job that is being asked of them, if that makes sense. Uh, there is some, if you don't have the chat up, the question is putting tech terms into non-tech terms. There actually is some of that, and we'll go over that specifically for the hiring managers. That's a great question. That is one of the goals of this application. So, uh, as you can see there, it's built on the foundation of the NICE framework. That is the dictionary, right? So, everything that absolutely correct. Everything that comes out of it, the back end, it's looking at the NICE framework. It's parsing through all 2,000 KSTs. It's looking at the work roles, and then it's coming up with an analysis and a translation, right? So that's the generative AI portion. So it's translating the resumes and it's translating the job descriptions all into that standardized workforce data. And what we want to emphasize is that does not mean you need to change your roles, right? You've done a lot of work to come up with the right duty titles and ensure that those duty titles match to your pay and the processes. You don't have to change that. But now we can kind of say, okay, your duty title or the role and description, this is the work role according to the standardized framework. This is the work role that most aligns to what it is that you're asking for out of that individual, right? Um, match scoring is one of the key features, right? So it's not saying that you align to this particular work role. It's saying you are aligned based on these key indicators and you have a percentage match on what that work role aligns to, right? And you'll see that in action here in a few minutes. And then the gap analysis. So not only is it saying, okay, this is what the individual, for instance, aligns to. This is what your resume is saying that you're aligned to, but you're aligned to a 70%. You say you want to be a network engineer or you want to be a senior network engineer. Well, this is the plan for what you need to fill in order to get to that point that you're looking for. So it'll reach out over the next 6 to 12 months and say, you need to do these things, but also when you walk out of here today, you need to get started on this thing, right? So there's next steps. Um, in our role here, we do a lot of mentorship, a lot of one-on-ones. If anybody calls the Georgia Cyber Center, says they're trying to get into the career field, first thing I'll do is let's hop on a one-on-one call, right? And so we do all these different mentorships, and without fail, at the end of the mentorship, everyone is excited. They're saying, thank you, appreciate you sitting down with me, all of those things, and they're excited to move forward. And then you follow up with them a week later, and they're just overwhelmed. They were like, you gave me all that good information. I don't even know what to do right now, right? That next steps, that's what to do right now. So they'll be able to take the analysis with them or save the analysis, and they'll say, yes, I was very overwhelmed by everything I need to do. I was very excited to jump into all of these different labs and trainings, but then I got overwhelmed. But I'm able to point back to next steps. This is exactly what you do when you go out here today, right? That particular piece or that particular feature is crucial, especially for those career changers or the entry levels, those new folks getting into the career field. And then the consistency verification at the bottom, it's meant to highlight some inconsistencies that might be in your resume. They might be easily explainable consistencies. We see that a lot with the military in particular, right? So you have 15 years of leadership experience listed on your resume, but you just got your bachelor's degree last week. That's easily explainable, but it's something that at least they can highlight on their resume again to let the hiring managers know this is legitimate information. So, and then there's other times where it actually calls out some mistakes you may have made and didn't notice. You say you had this certification, but you didn't realize that certification expired. So it'll say, hey, you said you had this certification, but you got that certification 8 years ago, and it's only good for 3 years, right? So it'll bring up some of those points. And maybe that's just they need to update their resume, or maybe they need to go get recertified. Right. Next slide. Again, we're going to go through this demo, but that is what it looks like. So you put in your resume, and then on the back end, it gives you some analysis with the overall assessment, your strength areas, development areas you need to work on, verification notes, and then it matches you to the career track. So again, it's to a score. So it will only display the ones you match above 70%. And that's a hard-coded number that we put in there. Then it'll give you some additional data. Don't worry if you can't see that screen. I'm going to share mine here in a minute, and you'll be able to see that. Next slide. And then for you as the hiring managers, the hiring authorities, you put in your job vacancy, it'll run the same analysis. It'll say, hey, these are the different work roles, again, over 70% that you align, your job vacancy is aligning to. And then it's going to give you a career track recommendation, right? And as you can see, it's not actually the same on this one. So just because it's put in priority order based on how it matches, that career track recommendation may actually be the second or third one down. It's not automatically the one at the top, and it's going to give you an explanation on that. So when I copied this, when I took this screenshot, the uh, the recommendation was only one line, but now that's a little bit more fuller explanation. Again, Craig, that's part of that explanation. We want to explain to you why it matches to this career track. So all of those explanations you see on that screen, they're a little bit more robust as we developed out this application. Next slide. And so let's go ahead and get into the demo. I know we got about 20-ish minutes left. Can I go ahead and share my screen, Jacob?
Sure, feel free.
Perfect. All right. Please let me know when you can see that.
Yep, we can see it.
Perfect. So this is your home screen. Career mapping on the left, map vacancy, and then the career tracks explorer. And then we just have the frameworks here. Again, that is how the KSTs are broken down. So we'll start with the career tracks explorer. We talked about 5 categories, and then each category has a certain number of work roles aligned to it. So that you won't see, what did we say, systems analysts or security analysts. You won't see a security analyst. What you'll see is specific domain names of the overall career. So whereas defensive cybersecurity is one that we point to, there we go. So there's defensive cybersecurity. So in your job roles and the requirements, you might have several different jobs that all align under defensive cybersecurity. You can pick and choose which of the KSTs make sense for what you need for your organization, but you know that they all align under defensive cybersecurity, and you'll see a little bit of that. And so these are the 41 work roles. And you see, they're not all technical, right? So we have knowledge management here. We have secure project management, program management, I think is one of them. Yep, right there. Executive cyber leadership is one. Digital forensics. So you're going to see that a lot when triaging incidents after they happen. Network operations tends to be more of an IT job, but there are some security concepts definitely put in there. And so this way you have a framework. Again, you don't have to be the expert on cyber, because you also have to be the expert on all of these other different industries that are in your organizations that you're doing the hiring for. But you know that this is built on a standardized framework. All right, and then you can click, we'll just take another second here. So you click on a particular one, and you'll see the tasks, knowledge items, and skills that align specifically to that entry-level work role of that particular path. All right, so let's go back out. Let's go to the career mapping. So this is for the individual. We'll say Yeah, cancel that real quick. Uh, what they do here on the manual, you can put in your information if you'd like. It does work better if you just upload your resume since that's what's going to be viewed, but maybe you're entry level and you just want to kind of see what this is, um, or where you align based on just what you think you want, right? So you can put some of that information in there. But we're going to move over to the upload resume. So, and we have a couple different resumes here. So I'll do the mid-level resume for right now, and it'll run this analysis. Now I want to speak about the analysis piece of it. It is generative AI. And if you're familiar with that term at all, generative, basically every time you run the analysis, you might get a little bit different answer. Uh, in practice, we run it about 3 times for a given resume or for a given vacancy. I'm hiring right now, and I did use the tool to help develop my hiring, um, my vacancy job ad. Uh, so run it about 3 times. You'll get a good idea of what you want to focus on. Again, it's not meant to be a replacement to any skill. It's meant to just help and maybe get you to ask different questions of it. So for the individual, again, this was a mid-tier IT specialist resume. They have strong support. They have effective or strong technical support skills, effective communication, couple development areas. Hey, you need to gain more practical experience in specific cyber roles. I think this one was help desk for 4 years, right? So that's an IT role, not necessarily a cybersecurity role. So we need to build out those skills. Again, that's normal for where that individual would be in their career. Um, some verification of your work experience overlaps with the educational timeline, which is perfectly fine because maybe uh, you started your job before you graduated. Perfectly understandable. It's just something to maybe be aware of, right, for the individual. Um, Candidate claims expect the expected proficiency in CCNA, but has not passed the certification, which is fine because in this particular resume, they said they were studying um, for the CCNA exam, which yeah makes complete sense. So then down here it gives them the recommended career tracks. This we want full transparency in everything we're talking about. Again, so we tell them exactly this is how everything is calculated. Definable skills is on the left. That's about 60%. Uh, we welcome your feedback if you believe it should be higher, lower. If there's tweaks that we can make to it, please, we welcome your feedback. Um, so it's picking out keywords, some of the wording in your resume and saying, okay, that's 60% of the score. And then on the right, we have soft skills. So what it's saying is we took your job titles and we took some of the responsibilities that you listed and said, okay, that's leadership. And maybe you have a year of leadership. So it's kind of doing some analysis on the wording of your resume to give you the soft skills analysis. Um, and for this one, it aligned him to network operations. Makes complete sense. He's trying to pursue CCNA, which is a specific network certification. He did help desk for 4 years. Absolutely, network operations makes complete sense. And again, there's the match score. Again, it will only show the match score above 70%. Um, recommended level mid. He's 4 years in. Again, perfectly normal. And then here we do have the salary range. And this is what we would say to the person is typically expected for someone who's mid-level, who's for this particular work role. And there are some calculations in there, right? So I do want to point out right now, we did analysis using our ecosystem of partners to come up with those numbers. It is not actually tied to a database of any kind, Indeed, Glassdoor, any of those things. We do again want recommendations on whether it should be or if you prefer the recommendations, what we came up with through our analysis, and these are ranges. Now for network operations, it's more of a common field. So the multiplier for it is 0.9, which means it's slightly less than the standard. Um, the standard multiplier is 1. And then we say small market, right? So this person, I'm not sure where he was, but he's probably here in Augusta. Small market, so it gives you takes a little bit away from that, but that's a multiplier that can change if you're in Atlanta or a larger city. And then the 8K for the search. Typically, if you have certification, you'll see a little bump in your pay, so it gives them that. And like I talked about, the transition time, 6 to 12 months for you to get fully proficient at network operations. These are your relevant skills. Talks about the specific strengths, so over the top, overall strength areas, but those could change based on the specific work role. So uh, you see your strengths, your skills gap. This is what you need to work on. These are your action items, pursue these kind of things. And then your next steps. Again, that's the critical piece that we've seen locally is people need those next steps because that euphoria of the mentorship session is going to go away and they need to know what to do in order to fill those gaps. All right. And so it does that the same way. Um, if you have any questions about any of this, again, please just put them in the chat, but we'll move over to map vacancy. Uh, Manual entry, you can put a copy and paste all of the details in there, or you can just upload your resume document. So that's what we're going to do here. Use cases, DOAS, and we're going to use systems architect. I wanted to use two, we're just going to use one. I think we're running low on time, and extract. Right, and that is running tad bit slow this morning, but that's okay. We'll let it get through. What it's doing first is it's actually going to parse your document out and put it into the specific roles on that manual entry page. And the reason it does that is because we want to give you the opportunity to edit, change anything the way you see fit. And we took this one off of the site, the Team Georgia Careers site just yesterday. Um, it parsed out the salary, says it's in Atlanta, and then it talks about all the responsibilities. And I want to use this one as an example specifically because there's a lot there. It's actually a very well written job description, but it's asking for a lot. So when I first looked at it on the site, I was immediately curious on how it would look once we parsed it out. But again, this is where the manager who's asking for the vacancy, they have very specific requirements that they're looking for based on what they know they need inside of the office, right? And they're going to give you those requirements in HR, and then your organization, your teams are going to make sure that the requirements uh, meet the standards that you're looking for, or in the right format, and all of that. But you're trusting the individual to know what he's asking for as as well you should. That makes complete sense. So the analysis, can you enlarge it? Okay, let's see. Scroll up. How was that?
That looks much better on our end.
Okay, perfect. All right. So this is the analysis here. Primary work role. So it says 85% match to cybersecurity architecture, 80% match to enterprise. Again, it gives you a why this role matches. And so again, Craig, this is where it's non-technical language, right? So it's saying this is why it matches this particular work role. This find candidates is not active yet. We'll talk about that a little at the end. Matches this to an 80%, and then secure project management. It's recommending the enterprise architecture, which is not the highest percentage, but based on what is being asked for in that job role, it says it makes the most sense for that. And then this is where it wants to help out. And when you run this analysis, I won't keep rerunning it, but one of the things that it points out probably 2 out of 3 times is that there's a lot of different work roles and overlap within this job description, which is fine. If again, it's what your organization needs, but it helps to be aware that there's a lot of different overlap across work roles, across different expertise levels in this, especially when the salary is 62.5 inside of Atlanta, right? You know what your budgets are. If that's the salary, that's the salary. But maybe this helps um, adjust or manage expectations. Maybe you take out some of the role responsibilities in there because this is asking for a lot for this particular work role. And then it gives you, again, the calculation breakdown. So those base ranges, again, is what we came up with, but they can be adjusted or we can tie them to a specific database that makes sense. We have the multiplier. Most of the multipliers will be 1. We talked about network operations a minute ago, and it was 0.9, I think. And then the location. So this one's in Atlanta. So it multiplied it by 1.12 as opposed to the 0.85 for being in Augusta. And then the certs, we talked about that. So the posted salary is low, may not be able to attract, and we want to fill the gaps. That's the point, right? So we got to remember that is the goal. We want to fill those gaps. So maybe we need to adjust the expectations and responsibilities downward. And then here, it gives you some example rewrites. Again, you don't have to take these and copy them word for word, but just says, hey, this might be what we're looking for.
Danny, I just want to give you a 4-minute
Yes.
warning.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, we are coming to the end. So it's just giving some additional data points that you may be able to look back, the HR rep may be able to look back on and then go back to the hiring manager and say, hey, you're asking for a lot of different things. Do we need to break this into 2 roles, or what are the most important or the priorities that you need for this? That way we can adjust the job description to actually meet the salary that we can pay, right? There's a lot of different challenges that we have in trying to fill, especially government roles. We understand they don't make as much, but that's where writing the job description can certainly support and ensure that we get the right person into that position. So with that, can you all see that? Let's do it this way.
Oh, yes.
Okay, I'll just do it this way. So for the pilot program, the thing to know here is that we're looking for a few organizations that will do a pilot. We would like to kick off a pilot beginning in July of this year. We don't have the full structure of the pilot yet. It's still going through the internal discussions with legal and the business folks and everything. So we're going through all of that, but we really, honestly, the most important thing we want here is your honesty, your feedback, and how we can make this better. Again, the goal isn't the primary goal is workforce development to ensure that we can meet that cybersecurity threat that's out there. And if you would like to be a part of the pilot, you can take a look at that QR code there. I'll just expand it. But you can either sign up at the link, and we'll make sure that these slides are sent out. You can sign up at the link or using the QR code. It's not signing you up for anything. It's just to be notified once the pilot details are finalized, that we can get this out to you, and then we can talk about interest and whether your organization would like to participate. So that's the general goal. But I know I got 2 or 3 minutes left, so I'd like to open the floor to any questions there might be.
Okay, so there is one question. Since there are so many openings, how does one qualify for a cybersecurity role if they do not have much experience?
That is actually a great question. So I think we have to be better, and we've actually had these discussions inside of the Georgia Cyber Center and with some different organizations, state organizations in Georgia. We have to be better at writing our entry level requirements. When we say that it's an entry level position, but then we also put 3 or 4 years of experience onto that, then that turns it into a mid-tier position that we are still trying to categorize as entry level. So I think we have to be better at our requirements, but then for the individuals that are trying to break into cybersecurity and figure out what they need, this is the first stop. Have them contact us, the Georgia Cyber Center. Again, we don't want to just give training. Anybody can give the training. We want to make sure that the training fills the career goals that they're looking for. that answers the question.
Okay, thank you very much, Danny, for sharing the Cyber Pathfinder with us. And again, if you are interested in participating in the pilot, or you just want more information, you definitely can use the barcode that was shown. Also, we'll be sending out this presentation a few days after today's presentation, so you'll be able to have access to that later. But also, if there were any questions that we did not answer, we'll definitely answer those in the when we send the presentation back out. We will answer those unanswered questions in that message. So Danny, again, thank you so much for joining us today. A very interesting tool. I really like it for the development capabilities that are part of that tool. So thank you so much for sharing that with us today. And so
Thank you.
now we will, thank you very much. And so now we will switch over to the next gen update. And if we can go to the next slide, please. Next slide. And again, this is the portion of the meeting where we try to present information to HRDs, information you need to know about the Georgia at Work project, which we are going live July the 1st of this year. So there's a lot of activity going on. So as you see on the slide here, here's a lineup of presenters that will be sharing information with you today. And if you go to the next slide, you saw the list of presenters, and these are the topics that they will be discussing today. As you see, we have a lot to talk about. And so I will get started giving you a high-level overview of the Next Gen project timeline. So next slide, please. And this is the schedule here that shows from January until July 1, which is go live date. And if you see, there's a lot of activity going on here. There's a lot of things happening across the project to get us across that finish line on July 1. So I'm not going to cover everything that's on here. I'm just going to point out a couple of things that specifically you need to be aware of as an HRD in terms of what you need to know, what's happening between now and go live date. First of all, if you'll look to the left of the slide, you'll see a bar that indicates agency readiness activities that runs from January until about mid-March. A lot of these activities we will be discussing today. In today's meeting, we'll be discussing a lot of those readiness activities. So you'll be aware of what they are. But these activities are vital to getting us prepared and ready for what you see in the round gray box, which is down here circled in gray, which shows that basically what this is showing here is that we are currently conducting a mock go live exercise. And this actually is a go live rehearsal that will give us practice for the actual cutover that will happen on July the 1. And so what we'll be doing in this mock go live is that we'll do end-to-end validation of processes. And so a lot of the activities that we'll talk about today, these readiness activities, will help us with the mock go live and help us to get ready for activities that will occur later in the spring. So you'll see that many of the requests that we're asking agencies to address, they're critical in terms of making sure this whole process that you see before you, that it moves smoothly and transitions very smoothly. Then this is why you'll see a lot of completion dates between January and March on this chart. Also, I want to talk about something that is not shown on the chart. There are a couple of freeze dates that are between January 5 and February the 2nd, and then February the 16th through February 26th, and then the freeze dates for June have not been determined yet. Now, what this is referring to is only regards job codes and job descriptions. In other words, during those dates, January 5 to February the 2nd, February 16th to the 26th, we can't make any changes to job codes or to job descriptions during those freeze dates. Also, there may be other freeze dates that occur on the schedule, and if so, those will be communicated to you. So, as you see from the schedule here, that there's a lot, this is a very exciting time for the project. We're getting close to the finish line, And so a lot of activities between now and July the 1st. But we want to make sure that we tell you how thankful and how appreciative we are of your time and commitment to complete these activities so we can go across the finish line on July 1st all together. So that's kind of a high level go live timeline. Again, this will be shared with you a few days. After we present today, we'll be sharing all this information and a follow-up message that you will receive very, very soon. Next slide, please. And then for training updates, we have some updates about training. And so we'll turn this over to Satanya Payne, who is Director of Workforce Policy and Business Operations with DOAS HRA.
Thank you, Al, and good afternoon, everyone. I wanted to talk to you a bit about the upcoming training due to the project timeline being revised. With the change of our timeline, we also updated the rollout schedule for training. In March, employees will be auto-enrolled in your foundational learnings. In mid-March, auto enrollment will begin for role-based learnings, and employees will be able to start signing up for the instructor-led courses. Those courses, instructor-led courses, will begin in April and continue through June. The trainings must be completed by June the 11th. This is the cutoff date for training in order for the data to transfer over to Georgia at Work. And if someone completes the training after this date in Team Georgia, they will not get credit in the new system. So it's important that you adhere to the schedule of June the 11th. All training must be completed by June the 11th to ensure that the cutover happens with Georgia at Work. Now, after July 1st, all of the training will be available again, but that will be in Georgia at Work. So initially, the trainings will be conducted in the LMS system and via the current system, but as of July 1, we will be in Georgia at Work. Now, the users will be able to retake any e-learnings that they have already completed as many times as they like. So the basic navigation and other training modules that were released earlier this year will still be available to everyone as they get closer to go live and want a refresher. I also want to remind you that our new training support center is available on Georgia at Work Resource Library. Here are a couple identified. So the basic navigation and early training modules that were released earlier this year will still be available to everyone as we get closer to go live, but you also want to make sure that you utilize these tools and resource libraries to assist you with becoming prepared for go live date. So, next slide.
Okay, thank you, Satanya, for that. And training is something that a lot of folks are very interested in. Remember the June 11th date where all assigned assignments and learning activities must be completed by June the 11th. So that's a very, very important date. Mm-hmm. So now we'll hear an update about Super User. And for the presentation today will be Rhonda Zubos, who is Training Director with the Financial Systems with SAO. So Rhonda?
So Rhonda had an emergency, so I will be presenting the slide for super users today. As you all know, we meet weekly on Wednesdays, 2 sessions, 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. Currently, we are in phase 1. Our current activities include foundational learning program courses. We walk through the sandbox and access and review the processes. We review crosswalks and change impacts. We document the agency operational impacts in the solutions log. So the super users are making a lot of progress. They are getting involved. They're learning the system. They're asking questions. They're demoing during the session themselves and walking others through those different processes. So we're excited about what's happening with the super user program. What's next? We will begin the role-based learning path. That rollout will begin January 26th, and that is e-learning. Also, the HCM super users will begin their instructor-led sessions February the 4th, and those will be virtual. Engaging with the stakeholders and reviewing the FAQs and demos is critical to go live, a successful go live. So we encourage those super users to begin those activities beginning in phase 2. The phase 2 super user meeting will be held on tomorrow, January 21st. So we look forward to all of the super users being on the call and having a discussion in regards to what's next and what's upcoming and any feedback that they have from phase 1. So thank you. That's all that we have regarding the super users. And we look forward to seeing you.
Okay, thanks, Satanya.
Mhm.
Now we'll shift gears and we'll talk about data cleanup, and we'll be joined by Carla Grayson, who is the Director of Enterprise Benefits with DOAS HRA.
Thanks, Al. Hi, everybody. This is a quick update about data cleanup. First of all, thank you for all the data cleanup that you've done so far. We've sent you numerous emails and really appreciate all your help. We are now going for another milestone related to data cleanup. As Al said, we're going to be having a TeamWorks data snapshot that's going to be taken at the end of this month. In order to have the data in TeamWorks as up to date as possible, what we'd like you to do is to respond to emails that went out last week to many of you, not everybody, but to many of the agencies to clean up some data in the system in TeamWorks. And those emails describe and have attached a list of employees that need to be updated, and also describes what needs to be updated in the system. Data cleanup is very important, as many of you know. The state offers employees benefits to recruit and retain them. And the Georgia at Work system has been configured to set up benefits based on various benefit rules. We have different rules in SHBP and flexible benefits and in pension. We look at the path to benefits eligibility chart, which many of you have and should be referring to with Georgia at Work. That chart includes the fields employment status, regular, permanent labor, temporary, hourly salary, and scheduled weekly hours. For many of the benefits, the system is configured to look at the data in those fields and then determine, based on the benefit rules, what their benefit should be. It's very different than what's happening today, where your agency will go in and put in a program code, and that determines all the benefits. The other really great thing about Georgia at Work is when you put in the pension plan, that data is going to be sent over to ERS, and they'll be able to review the pension plan that you put in, that your entity put in, and then give feedback if that needs to be updated. Because you know there are some standard rules, but then there are some exceptions. There's employees that are rehired that might be in one pension plan, and when they come back, they're eligible to go into that same pension plan again. The other thing is that when we look at our work streams that are working on Georgia at Work, they receive reports and data about mismatches between TeamWorks and our third-party vendors or Georgia at Work. Well, it's like solving a puzzle. We're looking at, well, why is there a mismatch here? Why does Alight, for example, have an employee status that's different than we are sending them now in Georgia at Work? Was the issue due to data conversion? Is the issue because of configuration? Or is the data just not accurate within TeamWorks? And so this is where we need your help to solve the puzzle. So I would like to ask you, please, if you receive an email, to follow those instructions and use the employee list. Also, please make these updates by January 29th. Use an effective date in TeamWorks of January 2nd, 2026, so that it's picked up in the snapshot later this month. We also have scheduled 2 open house all-day events at DOAS. They will be Wednesday, January 21st and Tuesday, January 27th. You should have received notice about that last week in emails. They'll be at the West Tower from 9 to 5. And then if you have any questions, please contact nextgensao.ga.gov. Thank you very much for your help, and looking forward to seeing you at the open house.
Okay, thank you, Carly. Now, of course, data cleanup has been an ongoing process. So if you're having some issues with your data cleanup, please take advantage of the open house that Carla talked about. on January 21st and on January 27th. Now we will talk about manual corrections, and we're joined by Evan Steins, who is our next gen Deloitte HCM core and compensation. So Evan, it's all yours.
Thanks, Al. Hey, everyone. Just wanted to join quickly to give you guys an update on sort of a new activity that'll be happening in segments for the duration of the project here. And we're referring to it as manual corrections. This is going to be an activity where we're going to be asking the agencies to engage in entering transactions that maybe either failed to convert over to Georgia at Work or were converted incorrectly. To date, we've engaged with the HRDs from the agencies to collect a list of users who are intimately involved with entering HR transactions currently today in TeamWorks, so that we can begin to get you all involved with the process that will be involved with getting any conversion fallouts or data issues corrected prior to go live, right? So we've had a number of conversion builds on this project and some items that have consistently come up as problem areas where we're going to need to manually intervene to get that data either entered or corrected. And so we've gone through the process of sort of identifying some of those areas. And what we're going to do, this is a timely update because this afternoon we'll have a kickoff meeting to sort of walk through this in more depth. But we'll be going through kind of a simulation of this over the next couple of weeks to give you guys an opportunity to get into the system, get involved with entering some information, get you more informed on the timeline for when these things are happening. So that way, when we get to go live, this isn't the first time that anyone has participated in this sort of activity. So as I mentioned, right, that activity of identifying who is involved in that process has taken place over the last month or so. We'll have a longer form discussion here this afternoon, some demonstrations to get you all started with some practice scenarios this afternoon. And that, like I said, will happen this afternoon. There'll be a 2-week window to practice those scenarios in a practice environment. And then, as Al mentioned, right now we're going through sort of a simulation of go live, right, with a tenant build. As part of that, we also want to simulate that manual corrections activity that will happen there at the end of at the end of February, early March, right? So again, we'll be doing more of a deep dive this afternoon into this activity and getting you all prepared to execute on some of those scenarios. But yeah, we'll see. I think some of you all this afternoon, and look forward to continuing the conversation at that point. So I'll turn it over to you, Al.
Okay, thank you, Evan. And here's another opportunity. Again, one of the big focus or objectives of the project is to make sure we have good data. So here's another opportunity to learn how to have, maintain data, make sure we have the correct data that will go into Georgia at Work. And so again, our focus on accuracy and integrity of data. And here's another opportunity to be part of that process. So thank you, Evan. Next slide, please. Now we will hear from Kiana Taylor, IT Director, HCM Financial Systems, that will give us some updates about payroll. So Kiana, all yours.
Good morning. Thank you, Al. Good morning, everybody. So just a few updates for payroll. One thing that's pretty large is that we are looking at the completion of Payroll Compare, the 5th iteration, PCT4. We want to just say that we appreciate everybody working on that, and we're happy to be moving forward. Again, for the exit criteria, as with the prior ones, we have to make sure that there are no open payroll issues that will prevent going live, and currently we have none. We have a few defects that are remaining, which we are kind of working through those, but those are not showstoppers. Additionally, those CFO attestations have been sent out. I think they've been in the hands of the CFOs for about 2 weeks now. I believe that we've received all of them back except for maybe one at last count, and we are working with that agency to get that wrapped up. Shifting focus to the ADP and tax initiatives that we're working with ADP for tax services. We previously asked for a power of attorney from each one of the agencies to set up the ADP registrations and service. That was done over a year ago, and due to the realignment of the go live date, those expired because they were not used. So we have sent those back out. We are asking that each agency CFO or financial lead completes those POAs and send those back. You'll see the emails and the information regarding that. There was a question of if we were in compliance with a few things. These forms, the POAs, have been sent over to the Attorney General office to make sure that we're in compliance with state laws. And they're identical except for the date change and the quarter change to the prior ones that were signed off from each CFO a year ago. Next slide. This is the most important piece that I need to speak about today for everybody on the call. This is the daily payroll participation request. So we had a conversation about some other states that had some issues going live with their payroll. And although we have done quite a bit of work with payroll to make sure that we don't have those issues that other states saw, what I came up with Officer Hines is an idea that we will have a bridge from soft go live until the first pay date in Georgia at work. And what we'll have is a checklist of items that the agencies are required to take a look at least one item a day and sign off and say, I've looked at this for my agency. We'll have an open bridge, 1 to 2 hours each one of those days. And the ask is that a payroll resource logs into that daily bridge. It should take them 5 minutes to say, hey, I've looked at this item. I'm going to sign off that our agency is good to go. We'll be looking at everything from deductions to bank accounts to any percentages that are off from a prior pay period. And we'll be answering any questions and kind of walking through any risks that we are able to see and any flags that throw up. And so we're really asking that the agencies get behind this and make sure that you have a resource that is dedicated to logging into that bridge once daily from soft go live until pay date to make sure that all of your employees are paid. And that is it for me. Next slide.
Okay, thank you, Kiana. Very, very important about those daily calls that will be happening very, very soon. Now we're going to talk about supervisory organization or SUPORGs. And Floyd Gibbs, who is Manager 3 IT with SAO, has information about an important update that will occur in March 2026.
Thanks, Al. Good morning, everyone. For this group, first of all, thank you for all the work that you've helped us with up to this point. We've done a lot of work with making sure that our supervisory organizations are correct so that when you go live in Georgia at Work, workflows will work as you anticipate them. We're currently, as you guys heard earlier, in the middle of our silver bill, which is our test for our go live. And so any of the recent SUPORG changes that you guys had sent in that didn't get done, we were put on hold for a minute while they create that tenant. And it should be released back to us in a couple of weeks, and then we'll finish those that you already sent. The purpose of this slide is to let you know that that wasn't the last time that you'll get an opportunity to look at your SUPORGs. We're going to do this iteration again in March. Those specific dates, we haven't come up with those yet. We're trying to get through the silver bill, but you'll have another opportunity in March to look at your SUPORGs and to make sure that they are aligned with your current structure in your agencies. It's very important, again, that, and as you guys know, that your supervisor organizations are correct so that when transactions or leave time, whatever those things are in place, that they'll be routed to the correct person. So just wanted to bring that up to you. Be looking for communications from us on those March dates when you guys will be able to get into the system. You've seen those before. It will be a new tenant that will go in, so it will no longer be GA8. It'll be another tenant that you'll have to log into and look, but the process will remain the same. Okay. Thanks, Al.
Okay, thank you, Floyd. Next slide, please. We'll hear from Tina Bufford, who is our Senior Manager, Enterprise HCM Operations. She's going to talk about position management, and Tina will share with us some best practices of position management within Georgia at Works, but also position number requirements. So Tina?
Thank you, Al. And thank you, everybody, for attending. Position management best practices at Georgia at Work is going to be based on position management. Job and position should match, and you should not be using job data override. And a data cleanup effort is underway. So if you could look at your job and positions and make sure that they match. Going into Georgia at Work, instead of moving people, we're going to be moving, we're not going to be moving positions, we're going to move people to their jobs. So if you're promoting somebody up from a manager to a senior manager, you will move them into that new job code instead of reallocating that job code to a senior manager. Next slide. And the reason being is that each SUBORG has a manager security role that is assigned to it by the position number, and workflow hierarchy always rolls up to the next level when vacant. So if you move that manager into a senior manager role, that manager role now becomes vacant. And any way to get that back into a manager role, you're going to have to create a ticket to SAO to get that manager role recreated. So that's why we want to make sure that we're moving people instead of positions. If a manager moves to a different position in another supervisor organization, they inherit any security roles that are tied to that position. So say you move an HR specialist to a role that's assigned to an HR partner, they get all the security that goes with the HR partner. So you have to be very careful when you're realigning those roles. And the workflows no longer roll up. Okay. Next slide. Georgia at Work requires unique position numbers. So if multiple employees are sharing the same position number right now, you guys are going to have to create new position numbers and put those employees on there. If you leave them on the same position number during the conversion, they'll go over to the position number, but it will be their employee ID _ position number. And that will only be for conversion. So either you can do it now and put them on their own position number, or you can wait till conversion to have it done. The only thing about waiting till conversion is if you wait, that position number, say it's 123, will no longer be available because that position number has not been assigned to 123. It has been assigned to an employee number _ 123. So once you move all those people off, 123 will no longer exist. So we would like you to go ahead and move those over and make their own position numbers. It will make conversion a lot easier and a lot cleaner. When an employee leaves, overlap is not allowed and a new position must be created as the employee ID is part of the unique position number, just like I said. And Georgia at Work will allow for a short-term overlap. So if you have an HRD that is retiring and you have an HRD that is coming on board, they can share that position for a simple amount of time. But that is only for like a 30-day period. So they cannot continuously share a position number. So I'm trying to educate staff on position management, including the best practices for closing a position and best practices for using available overlap. So another thing about positions is when you do term somebody off a position, just be very careful that you don't close that position if you're going to replace that position, because once you close it, it is gone. So those are some of the best practices for positions. If you have any questions or concerns regarding positions or position requirements, feel free to reach out to us. Me or Sharon Carter will be glad to answer any questions that you have. Anything else? There you go. Back to you, Al.
Okay, thank you, Tina. Now we'll hear some security updates, and we will hear from Stephanie Griffin, who is Information Security Analyst 2, and also Regan Lakula, who is the Workday Security Administrator. And they're going to share with us some information about a new security role mapping timeline, but also some more information about the manual corrections that Evan talked about earlier.
Thank you. Security role mapping, the goal of security role mapping is to confirm that the users have the expected access in Georgia at Work to perform their job functions. And here we listed some below steps that should be helpful for you to getting this task completed. Of course, we're going to send this later on today, but of course you will access the security role mapping templates for your agency using the request form. You will also review the existing assignments within your templates. You will work with your subject matter experts to identify those users who need Georgia at Work security roles. And you will also update those templates with your role assignment updates by January 30th and submit the updates via the request form. So those are the steps that you need to complete to get this task done. The next slide, please. This is an important slide to let you know the timeline. And of course, this morning, we did have a kickoff for the security role mapping. We're also going to send that information later on today. Once you get it, the agency team, the agency security partners, and the subject matter experts will comprise the agency team. You have until the 20th through the 30th to complete this task, review role descriptions and access, map end users to the security roles, and of course, we scheduled some working sessions to assist you for any questions that you have. On the HCM side of the house, we have the 10 o'clock on those dates, the 21st, 22nd, 27th, and the 29th. Those working sessions, again, they are tailored for you to answer any questions that you have completing this task. And of course, like I said, the deadline is the 30th to get this done. And of course, we appreciate all of the hard work that you're doing to help the agency security partners in getting this done. Thank you so much for your help, y'all.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. And next slide, please.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Okay.
Yes. On continuation with discussion on manual corrections from Evans, this slide will show you manual corrections login requirement from security perspective. So the kickoff is scheduled for 1 o'clock today. And as part of this upcoming HR manual corrections activity, one critical thing we wanted to highlight from the security perspective is how employees and testers log into GA work, that is the tenant one. So the key message here is simple. Employees must use the login method that is configured for their agency, not based on personal preference. Having said that, for agencies that are SSO enabled, that is single sign-on, the users must log in using their agency's specific single sign-on, like that's specified here, Okta, Azure, Google Duo, or SafeNet, respectively. And for agencies that are not SSO enabled, the users will log in using native Workday credentials, meaning the username and password. So this login method is determined entirely based, by your agency configuration, but not by the individual user, as I specified. And the right side, which highlights HR responsibilities. So this is very important because from an HR perspective, there are 4 key actions we are requesting agencies to take on. Firstly, identify which employees will be participating in the HR manual corrections activity in the GA12 mock tenant. Secondly, confirm their correct login method for your agency, whether it's SSO or native, that is username and password. And finally, clearly communicate those login expectations to your employees ahead of the time, where if you see any access issues, we request to coordinate early with your agency specific IT or IDP administrators. So doing this will only help avoid any login issues, delays, and last minute troubleshooting during the manual corrections window. Thank you. And can you move on to the next slide? So this is the agency's SSO and SSR hybrid list. You have this login methods which we'll continue to use during go live. The first block shows non-GETS agencies that will be using single sign-on. You see all the list of agencies, and the right-hand slide, the first box on the right side will give you the list of agencies that are GETS using single sign-on, and below the box with 4 departments and agencies that will be using hybrid, that is SSO plus the native login. And the last box gives you non-GETS agencies that are using hybrid. So this is it from security side on the login requirement. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie, and thank you, Ragan, for that update. And now we're going to talk about the Georgia at Work, the Change Readiness Check-in Survey. This is a very important tool that's used by the Next Gen leadership team to help develop targeted support for agencies based upon the feedback that we receive. And so Diane Tinnerman will, Next Gen, Deloitte, OCM lead, will talk about not only the Change Readiness Check-in Survey, but she'll also give us an update about the resource library. So Diane?
You, Al. So thank you for that intro to the Change Readiness Check-in Survey. You hopefully got the link to this survey during this meeting. We sent it out just a little bit ago. And again, we are asking for this survey because it measures your understanding and willingness to adopt the new processes, behaviors, and technology required for the transition to Georgia at Work. I want to highlight that this survey has a much smaller pool that we're asking folks to complete this from. It is just for y'all, our HRDs, it's for some other agency leaders, our change network, and our project team. Please do not forward the link that you received to anyone outside of these groups. A future survey in a few months will involve all Georgia at Work users. Again, that link was delivered about an hour ago. It's in your inbox, and asks that you please complete this survey by January 30th. It's not too long. It's, I think, about 15 questions. It goes by fast, and just really want to emphasize that you completing this survey really helps the change team provide targeted support for your agency's Georgia at Work journey. And the more voices who contribute, the better idea of support we have to provide. So thanks in advance for doing this brief survey, and really look forward to seeing your feedback. Next slide. I'm going to do a few Georgia at Work resource library updates. On our next slide, just calling out, hopefully everyone's accessed it. We'll put the link in the chat in just a minute, but remember, this is not behind a firewall. The resources that are available on the Georgia at Work resource library are for everyone. So those demos, those videos, the crosswalks, the change impact maps, all those materials, those are for you, they're for your teams. We want you to be getting in there, getting familiar with it. They're not training. We say that a lot because it's important to differentiate between the two. But again, these really help increase your familiarity and your exposure and get you ready for training for a smoother go live experience. Next slide. I want to highlight that we have a number of HCM demos from hire to retire processes covered. These are demos where you can access at any time, share them with your teams, pause, engage, go in deep on those. All of those topics also have change impacts materials accompanying with them in the business area. We'll go on that slide next. So you can really start doing a deep dive here before you even get into training. Next slide. As I mentioned, this is scrolling down a little bit further on the resource library. This is where you can find those change impact materials, crosswalks, glossaries, all those helpful things to help increase your familiarity with Georgia at Work. Especially when paired with the demos, they help provide a really comprehensive picture and get you really primed for training. Next slide. Speaking of training, we will have this resource up on that Georgia at Work resource library by the end of the week. This is what we're calling Ready, Set, Go Live. These are activities that everyone, all employees, should be doing to make sure they are getting ready for Georgia at Work training to begin. There are things like keeping your information current and updated, accessing those materials that we just talked through, getting a sneak peek into Georgia at Work. Really want to encourage you to review this yourself and share it with your teams to help provide that context about what on our Ready, Set, Go Live journey. Next slide. All right, back over to Al. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, thank you, Diana. And make sure that you complete your readiness survey. And also, if you haven't, please check out the resource library. There's a wealth of information there about the project, about different components of the Georgia at Work. I mean, you can't say you don't know something about the project, because there's all types of information that you will find there at the resource library. So please check it out. So, and here, speaking of information and being informed, I'd like to share with you very quickly about ways that you can stay connected to the Georgia at Work project. Next slide, please. First of all, there's FAQs that if you want information, maybe you don't know what question to ask. Well, if you go to the FAQs, we may have your question there posted for you with an answer. And there's several different FAQs that you can check out. You can just go to the SAO website, and there's a series of FAQs there. Also, if you want FAQs about the Georgia at Work in general, there's the website address is given for that. And also there's an HCM FAQ page with the address given on the slide. So 3 ways that you can go and look at different series of FAQs. Again, to be more informed about the project and what you can expect leading up to go live. Next slide. Other ways you can stay in the know. Other words, you can send any questions you may have to NextGen support. Again, the email address is given there. Also, you can check out the NextGen website at sao.georgia.gov/nextgen. And you can go there and find out information about the project. Also, you may not be aware, but there is a monthly NextGen newsletter that you can subscribe to, and you can, again, a way for you to stay up to date and informed about what's happening with the Georgia at Work project. And then, of course, you can follow us on LinkedIn at Georgia State Accounting Office and Georgia DOS State Purchasing Division. Another way you can stay in the know. Next slide. And then if there's this, we'd like to show this chart because it gives you different topics with the column project or program. If you want specific information about a particular aspect of the project, we try to divide that up and put it in categories where you can see a particular category, and then who do you email? And then when would you contact this particular resource? And then when will you hear from us? And so again, I'd like to give you this another way for you to stay informed and to know what's happening with the project. Next slide. Again, it's just a continuation with more contact information that you can tap into. And again, this information will be shared with you following this presentation. Next slide. And then again, we just want to thank everyone for your participation in today's meeting, but also for your continued participation in helping us to get Georgia at Work implementation July 1st. And so I know it's been a lot of hard work, a lot of effort's been put into this, but we wanted you to be part of this process because you will ultimately be using the system. So your input, your feedback, your participation is extremely important to us. So thank you for that. And before everybody starts signing off, I have a very important, some wrap-up items I wanted to share with you. But first of all, I wanted to make a very special announcement. And I think, I don't know if all of you know this or not, but I'll be retiring at the end of this month. So today was my last HR community meeting. And so, but you're going to be left in great hands, because what I like to do is introduce to you the new Deputy Commissioner for HRA. And next slide. It is Carla Grayson. Many of you know Carla. Carla is our current Director of Enterprise Benefits. And so you will, there again, Carla is very knowledgeable about the NextGen project. She's also worked in different areas of HRA. She's worked with policy, compensation, talent management, very, very versed on HR issues. So Carla will be the new deputy commissioner for HRA beginning February the 1st, although we've already started doing transition issues. So you'll be left in very good hands. And Carla will be leading this meeting next month. But I just want to tell everyone, I really appreciate the support that you've given this meeting over the last couple of years. We've gone from having about 35 people now to almost 200 people attend these meetings. And so it tells us that you are very interested in what's happening with the state's HR community. And just thank you so much for your support over the last 7 years that I've been here. This has been very, very enjoyable. So thank you very much. And Carla, would you like to say a few words?
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for the kudos. Really appreciate that. As you can imagine, our #1 project, our initiative, Georgia at Work implementation. So looking forward to working with all of you to reach our goal on July 1. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Carla. And we all wish you much success. I know you'll be extremely successful. And so next slide, please. And then we're always interested in feedback about the meeting. And so you can use this barcode to scan it. And there's a survey that you can complete because, again, we're very committed to continuous improvement. And how can we make this meeting more relevant to meet your needs? So definitely complete the survey. We do look at them. Matter of fact, later this afternoon, we will go over the results of the survey and be talking about the next meeting and how can we make it even better. Next slide. And then some important dates. The remaining meetings for 2026 are listed here. April 14th, July 21st, and October 20th are the next meetings of the HR community. And so make sure these dates are on your calendar so you can be part of these meetings. And also, you know, whenever we have an HR community meeting, we also have the HRD implementation meeting for Georgia at Work. So not only will we have a community meeting, but also we'll give you those updates about what's happening with the Georgia at Work project. Next slide. And then for those of you who like to follow the State Personnel Board and also the Employee Benefit Plan Council, here are the dates for 2026. These have been formally approved by the board and council at the last meeting. And so the dates given here are March 24th, June 23rd, August the 11th, and then our last meeting for 2026 will be November 17th. And so make sure these dates, again, are on your calendar. And not only can you be plugged into the HR community, but also see what's happening with our State Personnel Board and the Employee Benefit Plan Council. So next slide. I think that is it. And again, thank you guys for the memories. Thank you for supporting this meeting over the last several years. I will stay in touch with everyone, but thank you so much. And we'll see you next month. Thank you.